Ambassador Eric Nelson took a deep breath as he stared out the viewport at the swirling blue-green nebula beyond. The Grand Conclave Station hung in space like a giant metal flower, its petal-like structures housing the representatives of over 300 species. For 15 years, humans had been part of this galactic council. For 15 years, they had contributed, compromised, and cooperated, and for 15 years, they had been ignored when it mattered most. "It's time, sir," said Captain Samantha. "Right?" Her uniform crisp and her expression serious. As head of the human delegation's security team, she rarely smiled these days. "The council is reconvening in 5 minutes." Eric nodded and straightened his formal diplomatic coat. "Today will be different, Captain." "Yes, sir." "The President's authorization came through an hour ago." They walked together down the curved hallway. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved past them, some with too many limbs, some floating in special environment suits, others towering over the humans by several feet. Despite years of exposure, Eric still found the diversity amazing. What wasn't amazing was how all these different species had found common ground in one thing: treating humans as the newcomers who should be grateful for a seat at the table. The council chamber was enormous, with rising tiers of seats surrounding a central speaking platform. Eric and his team of 5 took their assigned section, noticeably smaller than those of the founding species. Above them, the artificial atmosphere shimmered slightly, where it separated different environmental needs. High Administrator Lorne, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, called the session to order. His voice came through the universal translators with the usual tone of board authority. "We continue our discussion on Resource Allocation Proposal 357, concerning the Outer Systems Development Fund," Lorne said. Eric leaned forward. This was it. The proposal that would finally bring needed resources to the human colonies in the outer systems. They had presented data, shown evidence of need, and lined up supporters over months of careful diplomacy. The voting began. One by one, the species representatives registered their choices. When it was done, the results flashed on the large display above the chamber. The proposal had failed, just like every other initiative that would have primarily benefited human worlds. Eric wasn't surprised, but the anger still burned hot in his chest. He caught the smug look from Counselor Zexathul, the Veloxian representative, who had been the most vocal opponent of human interests since day one. "The proposal is rejected," High Administrator Lorne announced, already moving on to the next agenda item. "Now, regarding the trade route security in the Antaran sector, I request recognition to speak," Eric said, his voice firm and louder than usual. There was a pause as Lorne looked down at him with 3 of his 4 eyes. "The human representative is recognized, though we have a full agenda today." Eric walked to the central platform, feeling the eyes of hundreds of alien species upon him. Captain Wright and the human delegation sat alert, knowing what was coming. "For 15 years, Eric began, humanity has been a member of this galactic council. In that time, we have contributed substantially to collective defense, scientific advancement, and cultural exchange. Our medical nanite technology alone has saved millions of lives across council space. Our FTL communication innovations have improved efficiency by 46%. He paused, looking around the chamber. Yet despite these contributions, humanity finds itself consistently marginalized. This is the 7th proposal benefiting outer systems colonies to be rejected this year alone. Human representatives have been passed over for committee leadership positions 18 times, despite outstanding qualifications. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some species representatives shifted uncomfortably. Others, like Zexthul, simply looked bored. Perhaps the humans expect special treatment for performing their basic obligations as council members. Zexthul called out, not bothering to be recognized to speak. If the outer colonies cannot sustain themselves without constant support, perhaps humans expanded too quickly. Several representatives chuckled. Eric didn't. "We expect equal treatment, Counselor, but we've waited long enough for it." Now the chamber grew quieter. Eric stood straighter. "By the authority vested in me as Earth's ambassador, and with the full authorization of President Garcia and the United Earth Government, I hereby formally announce humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The silence was absolute for 3 seconds before the chamber erupted in noise. High Administrator Lorne banged his ceremonial staff for order. Ambassador Nelson, surely this is an extreme reaction to a single vote, Lorne said when he could be heard again. This is not about a single vote, Eric replied calmly. And this is not a negotiating tactic. Counselor Zexathul stood, his scaled skin flushing orange with emotion. The humans are barely evolved primates playing with technology they don't understand. Let them leave if they wish to throw a tantrum. Eric smiled for the first time that day. We understand our technology perfectly well, Counselor. As you'll soon discover when it's no longer available to you. That caused another stir. A more moderate council member, the insectoid representative from Klaxon Prime, raised a limb. Ambassador, please reconsider. Perhaps we can form a special committee to address human concerns. We've had 15 years of committees, Eric said. We're done talking. He nodded to Captain Wright, who spoke quietly into her communication device. Throughout the chamber, the other human representatives stood in unison. The human delegation is withdrawing from council space. All human ships, personnel, and resources will begin departure immediately. For those worlds dependent on human medical or technological support, we will provide a 60-day transition period on humanitarian grounds only. Eric stepped down from the platform as the implications began to dawn on the council members. Some were shouting now. Others were huddled in urgent discussion. He led his team toward the exit, their steps measured and deliberate. Ambassador Nelson, High Administrator Lorne called after him. This action is unprecedented. Eric paused at the doorway and turned. So was accepting humans into the council. You should have taken us more seriously. The human delegation walked out, leaving stunned silence behind them. In the corridor, Captain Wright was already coordinating with Earth Command. Operation Homecoming is active, she reported. All human ships are receiving withdrawal orders. The defense fleet at Junction 6 has already begun pulling back. Eric nodded. And so it begins. As they approached the human docking bay, Eric's communication device chimed 3 times. Multiple council representatives were already trying to reach him. He silenced the device. Do you think they'll realize what they've lost? Captain Wright asked as they boarded their shuttle. Eric looked back at the council chamber one last time. They will. Probably around the time the first medical shipment doesn't arrive or when the Screeth realize the human defense fleet is no longer patrolling the outer rim. The shuttle door closed, and Eric felt the weight lifting from his shoulders. 15 years of being polite, of compromising, of accepting less than humans deserved, over at last. Take us home, he told the pilot. As the shuttle pulled away from the Grand Conclave station, Eric knew that the real impact of today's decision hadn't hit the council yet. But it would. And when it did, the panic would spread faster than light. Communication itself, humanity had walked out, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after humanity walked out of the Galactic Council, the first cracks began to show. Trade Director Vrel paced nervously in the small meeting room, his 4 tentacles twitching as he waited for the emergency session to begin. When the door finally opened, he almost jumped. High Administrator Lorne entered, followed by several key council members. Their expressions ranged from annoyed to concerned. Let's make this quick, Lorne said, taking his seat. The humans will return soon. Enough when they realize they need the council more than we need them. Trade Director Vrel activated his data display. I'm afraid that's not what my reports indicate, Administrator. The room darkened slightly as the display lit up with charts and figures. Humans produce 37% of all medical nanites used in council space. 42% of our faster-than-light communication relays are human-made and human-maintained. And their colonies control key resource systems that supply 15 critical minerals. Those numbers can't be right, said Counselor Zexathul, leaning forward to study the display. They are correct, Vrel said, his voice trembling slightly. And this morning we received notifications that all human ships are pulling out of joint defense operations. The outer rim stations are already reporting gaps in patrol coverage. On Earth, President Olivia Garcia stood at the podium in the United Earth Government Chamber. Cameras broadcast her image to every human settlement across 27 worlds. For too long, Humanity has contributed more than its fair share while receiving less than equal treatment, she said, her voice steady and determined. Today we chart our own course. Operation Homecoming has begun. All human ships' personnel and resources are returning to human space. She paused, looking directly into the camera. This is not about isolation. This is about respect. We remain open to relationships with individual species based on mutual benefit and equal standing, but we will no longer accept second-class status in a council that takes our contributions for granted. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Keith Daniels watched the speech from the bridge of the flagship Resolute. Around him, officers coordinated the massive redeployment of human forces across the galaxy. Admiral, the Centauri fleet has completed withdrawal, reported his second-in-command. The Arcturus defense cluster is now at 60%, with full withdrawal expected in 12 hours. Daniels nodded. And the border with Screeth territory? We're maintaining presence there for now, sir. The evacuation of human civilians from mixed settlements is taking priority. The Admiral studied the strategic display. Hundreds of human ships were on the move, creating a protective bubble around human space, while systematically withdrawing from Council operations. It was the largest coordinated fleet movement in human history. The Council still hasn't realized what's happening, Daniels said quietly. They think this is a negotiating tactic. Back on the Grand Conclave station, Counselor Mira hurried through the corridors. Unlike most Council members, the reptilian diplomat had always treated humans with respect. Now she was trying desperately to establish contact with someone, anyone, in the human diplomatic corps. She reached the human sector of the station only to find it nearly empty. Cleaning drones moved through abandoned offices. The few humans still present were technicians, systematically disconnecting equipment. "Excuse me," she called to a human woman overseeing the work. "I need to speak with someone in authority." The woman looked up. "Most of our diplomatic staff departed yesterday, Counselor. I'm just managing the technical withdrawal." "Please," Mira said. "There must be someone I can talk to. The situation is spiraling quickly out of control." The technician hesitated, then touched her communication device. After a brief conversation, she pointed down the hall. "Ambassador Mitchell is in the main office. He has 5 minutes for you." Ryan Mitchell, formerly Eric Nelson's deputy, and now handling the final stages of diplomatic withdrawal, looked tired, but resolute when Mira entered his office. "Counselor Mira," he said, not getting up from behind his desk where he was sorting through files. "I'm afraid I'm quite busy." "Ambassador, you must help me open communication channels with your government," Mira said urgently. "Already the effects of your withdrawal are being felt. Some outer worlds are reporting medical supply shortages." Mitchell's expression remained neutral. "We provided 60 days of extended humanitarian support for essential services. Is the Council having trouble replacing our medical shipments already?" Mira's scales flushed a deep green with frustration. "You know very well that setting up alternative production for your nanite technology would take years. Please help me arrange talks." "Our terms are simple," Mitchell said. "Equal standing, equal voice, equal treatment." 15 years was long enough to wait. On the edge of Council space, Captain Samantha Wright supervised the evacuation of the last human researchers from a joint scientific outpost. The local Council representatives watched with growing alarm as valuable equipment was packed onto human ships. "You can't take the atmospheric processors," one administrator protested. "This moon's colony depends on them. These are human-designed, human-built processors." Wright replied calmly, "We're taking what belongs to us. You have the blueprints. Build your own." Her communication device chimed. It was a priority message from General Lisa Powell, head of Human Military Intelligence. "Captain, be advised that Council military ships have been observed moving toward the Proxima system. Increase your evacuation speed and maintain alert status." Wright acknowledged the warning. So the Council was considering military options already? That was faster than expected. In the Council chamber, an argument was growing heated. Several representatives were on their feet shouting over each other. "We should seize their equipment by force before they can remove it all," called one voice, "and start a war. The humans have more warships than the next 3 species combined," replied another. Counselor Zex Thul slammed his fist on his console. They're just humans. Their withdrawal is already affecting markets and causing panic. We must show strength. From her seat, Counselor Mira shook her head. I've tried to open dialogue. They want respect, not threats. And might I remind the Council that 3 smaller member species have already approached human representatives about forming separate alliances outside our structure? That silenced the chamber momentarily. High Administrator Lorne looked shocked. Which species? Before anyone could answer, the main display activated. Trade Director Vrel appeared, his tentacles now fully extended in the Crestarian sign of extreme distress. The human-run communication relays in the Orion sector have just gone offline, he reported. 17 systems are now without faster-than-light communications, and we're receiving reports that the Screeth have launched probing attacks near Junction 6, exactly where the human defense fleet was stationed until yesterday. High Administrator Lorne stared at the display, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. Around him, the Council representatives fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans had walked out, and the Council was starting to panic. 2 weeks after humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council, Dr. Alan Murphy stood in his lab on Earth, watching as his team activated a series of commands on their terminals. Around him, screens displayed hundreds of technological systems, across former Council space, communication relays, medical production facilities, and transport networks. It's time, he said quietly. Activate protocol reveal. His chief assistant nodded and entered a final command. Protocol reveal active, sir. All hidden safeguards and backdoors are now operating. Capability limitations removed from all human technology in Council space. Dr. Murphy allowed himself a small smile. For 15 years, humanity had been sharing technology with the Council races, but never quite their best technology, and never without carefully hidden safeguards. Now those safeguards were being triggered. They thought they were getting our best, he said. They were getting what we were willing to share with those who treated us as lesser partners. On the Grand Conclave Station, chaos reigned. Emergency. Lights flashed in the Council chamber as representatives shouted over each other. High Administrator Lorne had been trying to restore order for nearly 10 minutes. Our medical ships can't reach the Procyon system, called out one representative. 3 hospitals there are reporting critical shortages. The communication network in the entire Sagittarius sector is experiencing technical difficulties according to the automated systems, shouted another. Trade Director Vrel's image appeared on the main display, looking even more distressed than before. Administrator, we have confirmation that 17 vital supply shipments failed to arrive at their destinations yesterday. The shortages are spreading faster than our models predicted. High Administrator Lorne finally managed to bang his ceremonial staff loud enough to quiet the chamber. We must approach this crisis systematically. Counselor Drav, what do our military options look like? Counselor Drav, a heavyset being with gray armored skin, stepped to the central platform. My staff has prepared contingency plans to seize key human installations and technology nodes. We could deploy within 3 days. Counselor Mira jumped to her feet. Are you suggesting we declare war on humanity? Have you gone completely mad? Not war, Drav insisted. A special operation to secure vital Council assets currently under human control. The humans would consider that an act of war? Mira shot back. And need I remind the Council that we just received intelligence that the humans have been operating their technology at reduced capability? They've apparently been holding back their true technological edge all this time. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Lorne turned to her. Is this confirmed? Mira nodded grimly. Multiple reports from across Council space. Human medical nanites suddenly working twice as efficiently. Communication relays showing capabilities we never knew existed. And their defense systems, she paused. Reports suggest their true military capacity may be significantly greater than what they've displayed. Near the border of human space, Captain Ben Rodriguez guided his stealth vessel closer to the Council military staging area. His ship, the Phantom, was utilizing technology that no Council species had ever seen. true adaptive camouflage that made it virtually undetectable. "Record everything," he ordered his crew quietly. "President Garcia needs to see exactly what they're preparing." On his view screen, over 30 Council military vessels were gathering. Intelligence suggested they were preparing for what the Council was calling a resource security operation, a thinly veiled plan to seize human technology and installations by force. Rodriguez sent the encrypted data back to Admiral Daniels with a simple message: "War preparations confirmed, awaiting orders." In her office on Earth, General Lisa Powell reviewed the latest intelligence reports with a grim expression. Beside her, Admiral Daniels studied the tactical display showing Council military movements. "They're seriously considering a military option," Powell said, shaking her head. "Even after everything we've shown them these past 2 weeks. Some species learn slowly," Daniels replied. "What about the Screeth? Any update on their movements?" Powell touched her screen, bringing up a new tactical display. "Their attacks are growing bolder. Without human ships patrolling the border regions, they've already seized 2 minor outposts. Council forces are struggling to contain them. And our contingency plans? Ready to implement at your command, Admiral. Operation Defensive Line can be activated within 6 hours." On the outer edges of Council space, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Screeth, long contained by human defense patrols, were exploiting the power vacuum. Their sleek, predatory ships slipped past the hastily assembled Council defense forces, targeting vulnerable colonies and outposts. On Colony World Helios 7, a mixed settlement of humans and Council species, the evacuation was proceeding in barely controlled chaos. Human ships had arrived to evacuate their citizens, but many Council species were begging to be taken aboard as well. Captain Wright oversaw the loading procedures, making difficult decisions about who could and couldn't be accommodated. "Please," begged a Trilaxian mother holding her 3 children close. "The Council ships won't arrive for 3 more days. The Screeth will be here by then." Wright looked at the frightened family, then at the limited space on her transport. She touched her communication device. "Admiral Daniels requesting permission to evacuate non-human refugees at risk from Screeth advances." There was a pause before the reply came. "Permission granted, Captain. Humanitarian principles still apply. Get everyone you can to safety." In the emergency council session, the situation had gone from bad to worse. A representative from the outer colonies had just delivered devastating news. The Screeth have taken Junction Station Alpha. Over 3,000 Council citizens are reported dead or missing. Our response fleet was inadequate. High Counselor Thax, one of the eldest members representing the ancient Vorlon species, rose slowly to speak. Though he had initially voted against human interests, his wrinkled face now showed deep concern. "We have gravely misjudged the situation," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "The humans were not just members of our council, they were the foundation supporting much of our recent progress. Without them, our borders weaken, our communication fails, our medicine falters." He turned to face High Administrator Lorne directly. "You have led us into disaster with your dismissive attitude toward the humans. I move for an emergency change in leadership." Before Lorne could protest, voting icons appeared on all council consoles. The result was swift and decisive. Lorne was removed from leadership, and High Counselor Thax was appointed emergency leader of the council. Thax wasted no time. "We will abandon all military options immediately. Counselor Mira, you have had the most success in maintaining any contact with humans. You will lead a diplomatic team to open formal negotiations." In human space, President Garcia received the message from Captain Rodriguez showing the Council military buildup. Her security team waited tensely for her response. "Implement defensive line," she said firmly. "But no preemptive strikes. Let's show them exactly what they're facing if they choose aggression." Across the border between human space and Council territory, hidden human defense platforms suddenly activated, revealing their presence. Powerful weapon systems came online. Additional fleets emerged from concealment. On the Council military, vessels preparing for their resource security operation. Alarms blared as sensors detected the suddenly revealed human defenses. Commanders watched in shock as their tactical displays showed overwhelming human firepower aimed directly at them. Their communication systems crackled to life with a message from Admiral Daniels. The Council has 2 hours to withdraw all military vessels from the border or face consequences. This is not a negotiation. Back in the Council chamber, Thax received the news of the human defensive reveal with a heavy sigh. He turned to address the stunned representatives. "It seems we have made a terrible mistake," he said simply. 1 month after humanity walked out of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Ryan Mitchell sat in a plain meeting room on a neutral space station. Across from him, a delegation of Council representatives waited nervously. This was the first formal contact between humans and the Council since the dramatic exit. "Thank you for agreeing to meet, Ambassador," said High Counselor Thax, his ancient face showing the strain of the past month. "The situation has become difficult for many worlds." Mitchell nodded but said nothing. He was under strict orders from President Garcia to listen but make no commitments. "We wish to discuss terms for humanity's return to the Council," Thax continued. "We are prepared to offer significant concessions." Mitchell opened his data tablet. "Before we discuss anything, I have been instructed to show you this." He activated a holographic display showing the Skreath invasion progress. Red zones marked fallen Council territories. Yellow showed contested areas. The spread of red was alarming. "This is why you're really here," Mitchell said calmly. "The Skreath have taken 12 Council worlds and are advancing on 6 more. Your forces can't stop them without human help." None of the Council representatives denied it. Councilor Mira leaned forward. "Yes, we need your military assistance, but there are also severe humanitarian crises developing across Council space. Medical supplies are critically low on 27 worlds. Food distribution systems are failing without human transportation networks." Mitchell's expression remained neutral. "And what exactly is the Council prepared to offer in return for human assistance?" Back on Earth, Chief Engineer Julia Foster led a team working around the clock in a vast control center. On massive screens, they monitored the final separation of human technological systems from Council infrastructure. "Final phase complete," one of her technicians reported. "All backdoor access points closed and secured. We now have complete technological independence from Council systems." Foster nodded with satisfaction. "And our new communication network?" "Fully operational within human space, ma'am. Faster and more secure than anything we shared with the Council." The technological separation had been a massive undertaking. For 15 years, human and Council systems had become increasingly integrated. Disentangling them without causing catastrophic failures had required careful planning and execution. Foster looked at the main screen showing the new independent human network. "Send confirmation to President Garcia. We are now fully self-sufficient." In orbit around the embattled Council world of Proxima 9, a Skreath battle fleet prepared to attack the colony below. The Skreath were tall, predatory aliens with bone-like external armor and a culture built around conquest. For years, only human military patrols had kept them contained. The Skreath commander hissed with pleasure as his sensors showed only a small, inadequate Council defense force protecting the planet. Without humans, these worlds were easy targets. "Begin attack sequence," he ordered. But just as the Skreath ships moved forward, their sensors detected new arrivals. Human warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their weapons already powered, and locked on the Skreath fleet. Admiral Henry Scott stood on the bridge of the lead vessel. "This is Admiral Scott of the Human Defense Fleet. Proxima 9 is under our protection. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." The Skreath commander snarled in rage. Humans had never directly protected Council worlds before. This was unexpected. He quickly calculated his chances against the human ships and didn't like the odds. "Tactical retreat," he ordered bitterly. "The humans have returned." On the Grand Conclave station, the Council chamber was in session when the news arrived. A cheer went up from many representatives as they learned that human ships had driven off Skreath attackers at Proxima 9. Does this mean they're returning to the council? One hopeful voice asked. High Counselor Thax raised his hand for quiet. No. Admiral Scott made it clear that this was a humanitarian action only. The humans are protecting innocent lives, not rejoining our political structure. But it's a start, Counselor Mira added. And there's more news. Human medical ships have arrived at the hardest-hit council worlds, providing emergency supplies. Thax nodded slowly. The humans are showing us what true civilization looks like. They have every right to abandon us after our treatment of them, yet they still act to save lives. At the peace negotiations on the neutral station, talks had continued for hours. Ambassador Mitchell reviewed the council's latest proposal on his tablet. These terms are still unacceptable, he said firmly. Humanity will not return to a council where we have anything less than equal status to founding species. Councillor Drav, who had pushed for military action against humans, pounded the table. Outrageous! Your species has barely been spacefaring. For 2 centuries, the founding races have been part of galactic civilization for millennia. Mitchell looked at him calmly. And yet you need us more than we need you. That's clear now, isn't it? Before Drav could respond, every communication device in the room chimed with an emergency alert. Counselor Mira checked hers first, her scales paling to a light blue. The Skreath have launched a major offensive, she reported. They've broken through at Junction 6 and are advancing toward 3 heavily populated systems. Mitchell received his own update from Earth Command at the same time. He looked at the council delegation with new seriousness. This changes things. My government is prepared to offer emergency military assistance on a larger scale, but only under new terms. Back in human space, Fleet Captain Greg Martinez prepared for deployment. His task force included ships from human worlds, as well as the 3 minor species that had left the council to ally with humanity. It was the first joint, human-alien military force operating outside council authority. All ships report ready, Captain, his second-in-command announced. Martinez nodded. Our mission is clear. Protect civilian populations regardless of species. Push the Skreath back to their own territory. Show the galaxy what a real alliance looks like. As his fleet prepared to depart, Martinez addressed his captains over the communication system. Today, we fight not just for humans, but for all people who deserve protection. The Council failed in its primary duty, to provide security for its members. We will not fail. On Earth, President Garcia met with her Security Council. The latest reports from both the diplomatic team and military intelligence were spread before them. The Council is finally offering real concessions, Admiral Daniels noted. They're desperate, General Powell nodded. The Skreath offensive has them terrified. Without our help, they could lose dozens of worlds. Garcia considered this carefully. And what do our people think? The public opinion reports. Humans want to help innocent civilians, Powell replied. But they don't want to return to the old council structure. There's strong support for forming a new alliance system entirely. Garcia stood and walked to the window, looking out at the gleaming buildings of New Washington. Then that's what we'll offer. Not a return to the council, but something new. A galactic concord where all members stand as equals. She turned back to her advisors. Draft the proposal immediately and authorize Fleet Captain Martinez to engage the Skreath with full force. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do when we're not held back. As night fell on the Grand Conclave station, High Counselor Thax stood alone at a viewport, watching distant stars. Behind him, the council chamber was empty, the representatives having left after another emergency session. We never truly understood them, he murmured to himself. And now we might lose everything because of our blindness. A communication chime interrupted his thoughts. It was Counselor Mira. High Counselor, we've received a new proposal from Earth. They're calling it the Galactic Concord. You need to see this immediately. Thax felt a small flicker of hope for the first time in weeks. Perhaps there was still a chance to salvage something from this disaster. The humans walked out, he said, quietly. But they might not leave us to our fate after all. Ambassador Eric Nelson straightened his formal diplomatic uniform as he prepared to enter the Grand Conclave Station for the first time in 2 months. The station looked the same, but everything else had changed. "Ready, sir?" asked Captain Samantha. Right, standing beside him at the airlock. Nelson nodded. "History happens today, Captain. One way or another." They walked through the corridors of the station, noting the differences. Council security had been replaced by a joint force of humans and various alien species. The once arrogant Veloxian representatives they passed now nodded respectfully instead of ignoring them. The council chamber itself had been redesigned. Gone was the hierarchical arrangement that had placed founding species above newer members. The new chamber featured a circular design where all representatives sat at equal height. High Counselor Thax, still leading the transitional government, rose to greet Nelson as he entered. "Ambassador, welcome back. We are honored by your presence." Nelson nodded but said nothing as he took his position at the speaker's platform. Around him, representatives from over 300 species waited in tense silence. Behind him stood the human delegation and representatives from the new allied species, who had left the council to join with humanity. 2 months ago, I stood in this chamber and announced humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Nelson began. Today I stand before you not to announce our return to that flawed institution, but to offer something new. He activated the central display, showing an image of a document titled The Galactic Concord. President Garcia and the United Earth government propose a new alliance structure, not a council where some species dictate to others, but a concord where all members stand as equals in voice and in rights. Murmurs spread through the chamber as the key points of the document appeared on each representative's personal display. The Galactic Concord will feature rotating leadership, transparent resource allocation, and equal protection for all member worlds, regardless of species, age, or origin, Nelson continued. No more first-class and second-class members. In orbit, around a former council world now under Screeth occupation, Fleet Captain Greg Martinez watched his tactical display as the final ships moved into position. The largest joint fleet ever assembled outside council authority was about to launch its decisive strike against the Screeth invaders. "All ships report ready, Captain," his second-in-command said. Martinez nodded. "Send the signal. Operation Liberation begins now." Across the fleet, ships from 17 different species moved forward in perfect coordination. At the center of the formation, human vessels led the way, their advanced weapon systems fully operational for the first time. "Let's show the galaxy what real cooperation looks like," Martinez said as the fleet engaged the enemy. Back in the council chamber, the debate had grown heated. Many representatives, especially from worlds suffering under Screeth attacks or resource shortages, strongly supported the Galactic Concord proposal. Others, primarily from the founding species who would lose their privileged positions, objected. Counselor Zex Thul, the Veloxian who had once called humans barely evolved primates, stood to speak. "This is nothing but opportunism," he declared. "The humans abandoned us in our time of need, and now they return with demands. They exploit our vulnerability to remake galactic society in their image." Nelson remained calm as murmurs of both agreement and disagreement spread through the chamber. "The Concord is not a human creation, Counselor. It was developed with input from 47 species, including 3 founding council races. And as for abandoning you in your time of need," he touched his communication device and the main display changed to show a live tactical feed from Operation Liberation. The assembled representatives watched in awe as the joint fleet, led by human ships, systematically liberated a Screeth-occupied world. "While we debate here, humans and our allies are fighting to free your worlds," Nelson said quietly. "Not because we must, but because it's right. The choice before you is simple. Continue with a failed system that breeds resentment and inequality, or build something better together." Grand Counselor Alara, newly elected to represent the moderate factions, stepped forward. "I move that we put the Galactic Concord proposal to an immediate vote." In her office on Earth, President Olivia Garcia watched the council proceedings via secure transmission. Beside her stood Admiral Daniels and General Powell, both tense as they awaited the outcome. Will they accept it? Powell asked quietly. Garcia shook her head slightly. They don't have much choice. The old council is effectively dead already. Half their worlds are dependent on our aid, and the Screeth would have taken a third of their territory without our intervention. And if they reject it? Daniels asked. Then we continue on our own path, Garcia said firmly. The Conquered already has 53 species committed to joining, with or without the Council's blessing. On the Screeth homeworld, news of the devastating defeat of their invasion forces had spread quickly. The Screeth High Command met in emergency session, their usual aggression replaced by growing fear. The humans have revealed their true military capability, the Supreme Commander hissed. And they've united multiple species against us. We must sue for peace, another commander suggested, a concept almost unheard of in Screeth culture, before they bring this new alliance to our doorstep. In the council chamber, the voting was complete. Grand Counselor Alara reviewed the results. On her display, her expression solemn as she prepared to announce the outcome. By a vote of 197 to 112, with 14 abstentions, the proposal to dissolve the Galactic Council and establish the Galactic Concord has been approved. A mixture of cheers and dismayed murmurs filled the chamber. Nelson allowed himself a small smile as he received the news through his earpiece that Operation Liberation had successfully freed 3 occupied worlds in a single coordinated strike. The Martinez Doctrine will form the foundation of our future relations, Nelson announced. Respect for sovereignty and mutual benefit, or no cooperation at all. Those are the terms humanity lives by. As representatives began to file out, many coming, to congratulate the human delegation, Nelson noticed Counselor Zexathul approaching. This isn't over, human, the Veloxian said quietly. Some of us will not forget how you forced this change upon us. Nelson met his gaze steadily. We didn't force anything, Counselor. We simply walked out. What happened next was entirely of your own making. 6 months later, Ambassador Eric Nelson stood in the newly constructed Concord Assembly Hall on Earth. Representatives from 327 species filled the chamber for the first official session of the Galactic Concord. President Garcia took the podium to deliver her opening address. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, not one dominated by age or origin, but by principles of equality, mutual respect, and cooperation. In orbit above, Captain Greg Martinez, now Admiral Martinez after his successful leadership during the Screeth conflict, watched the proceedings from the bridge of his flagship. Ships from dozens of species patrolled Earth orbit in a display of the new alliance's strength and unity. Was it worth it? His second-in-command asked. All the risk of walking out the brinkmanship? Martinez smiled. Sometimes you have to be willing to walk away to be truly valued. Humanity didn't just earn respect. We changed the galaxy. As the Concord Assembly began its first session, with representatives from former council worlds and newly independent systems alike participating as equals, Nelson took his seat. Across the chamber he noticed High Counselor Thax, now simply Representative Thax, nodding respectfully toward him. The humans had walked out. The council had panicked. And the galaxy was better for it.